Hello and welcome into the College Football Recruiting Show. I am Emily Proud, and it is a rankings release update. We are so excited to bring you these every time we have them, but before we get into it, just a reminder, make sure you hit that like button and that you are subscribed to the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. Let's tell you what's on tap for today's show. As I said, we have a new rankings reveal. We will reveal to you the 32 five-star prospects, and I can tell you right now, there is some movement. We've got new five stars and some who have dropped out of the top 32, and we will not shy away from discussing it all. Plus, we'll highlight some of the biggest risers and fallers in the full top 247 update. Let's go ahead and bring in our regular suspects for these kind of shows, and that is our Director of Scouting, Andrew Ivins, and National Recruiting Analyst, Cooper Petagna. Andrew, last time we did this was May 22nd, so tell us just what new information do we have now that we didn't have then?
Well, Emily, a lot of the nation's top recruits, they spent the month of June on official visits, making college commitments, but we did have a few events around the country, the big one being the Elite 11 finals out in Los Angeles. 20 of the nation's best quarterbacks, 3 days side by side of competition. So we had that. We also had Overtime's OT7 championships down in Tampa, Florida, and then various college camps and tournaments around the country. We got a big team of people at 24/7 Sports. We have boots on the ground, corner to corner, coast to coast. So that's really the new information. And the idea behind this update, I'm calling it a slight adjustment with a heavy focus on the quarterbacks. Look, we're a month and a half away from the all-important junior seasons, and that's where I think a ton of movement is going to be made when it comes to these rankings. Really, we only try to touch a few guys that we saw. So a reminder, we got 2 more updates before the early signing period there in December, and then the rankings are going to finalize in January after the postseason All-Star event. So again, this is a slight adjustment, and there's going to be more movement in the coming months.
Yeah, players as part of this top 247 have not even played in their senior seasons yet, so we will learn a lot more. But as you said, we have a lot of new information about these quarterbacks, especially coming from Elite 11, so we'll highlight those. But let's go ahead and roll through our top 32, starting with 32 through 21. Derek Meadows staying strong there at 32. Dijon Lee is actually a new addition to the top 32, up from a previous ranking of 40. You've got the tight end Lincoln Cure, who you just saw commit to Kansas State on our air last week. Not a ton of movement overall, but Andrew, who stands out in this group?
Dijon Lee, DJ Lee, the new 5-star. He's a cornerback out of California, recently picked the Crimson Tide. He's had a ton of fans behind the scenes. We saw him at Overtime's OT7 finals event. I call him a giraffe. He is that big. He can shade coverage windows like few others. Look, if you're going to be that long, you have to be able to run. Dijon Lee, second fastest short shuttle time of any 2025 prospect over 6'4". He's been excellent this offseason.
Emily, not a lot of change, as you just talked about and referred to in that top 32 in the back half of it. But one guy that stayed status quo at number 28, Hassan Longstreet, committed to Texas A&M out of Corona Centennial. He had a great Elite 11 finals debut. And you talk about a guy that really got it done playing on a hurt foot that he hurt the Monday night before workouts, had a good 3 days, battled through it. And this was a guy that was really kind of being considered not only for 5-star status where he was, but we didn't know if this was going to be a guy that was going to be able to kind of really cement that status. Goes out, Elite 11, has a really, really solid performance. We liked what we saw about him, but the upside there as well. And then you think about pairing him in a Colin Klein offense under Mike Elko, a lot to like about Hassan Longstreet. He proved himself one of the best passers in the country this offseason.
Already had him high, keeping him consistent there, just validating what you guys already believed to know about Hassan Longstreet. Let's go ahead and move on to the next group of 5 stars, and that is prospects 20 through 11. You got a pair of offensive tackles there in the middle with Joshua Petty, Andrew Babalola. Some edge talent, big guys in this group with Georgia commit Isaiah Gibson and Ty Haywood. Andrew, who do you want to highlight in this group?
Yeah, you look 20 through 11. We really didn't see any of these guys do anything over the past 6 weeks, but Michael Terry is one of the few. He was at the Texas State 7-on-7 tournament. Our guys Hudson Standish, Gabe Brooks, they braved that Texas heat, saw him play. The question is he a tight end? Is he a wide receiver? Is he a running back? Is he a linebacker? I don't really care what you want to classify Michael Terry as, because he's a playmaker. He's one of the best in the class. I can't wait to figure out where this kid is going to end up playing playing his college football because he's got so many different options. But he was great in that setting. We got some clips, some feedback, assertive after the catch in that two-hand touch setting. So really, really impressed with Michael Terry.
I think one of the more intriguing offensive tackle prospects in the country is Andrew Babalola, ranked right there at number 14. And you think about this guy, 6'5 plus, 275 pounds, got a basketball background, and you think about the potential there at that position. I think that his best football is obviously in front of him. And the reason I bring him up, he's one of the lone uncommitted prospects in the top 32. You have the academic powers, Stanford and Michigan coming off a national championship, battling it out for him. So an interesting recruitment, one of the more intriguing prospects at the position. I think this is one of those guys, ultimately at the end of the day, outside of David Sanders, one of those guys we're going to talk about for a long time coming 3 to 4 years from now. That could be one of the first tackles that hears his name called on day one of the NFL draft.
To be ranked in the top 247 is a big deal. To be named a 5-star is a big deal, but I think you guys would agree with me here. To be named a top 10 player in the country is absolutely massive. So we're going to go one by one through each player, 10 to 1, starting with the number 10 player in the country, and that is Alabama commit Keelon Russell. You saw him star at Elite 11 Finals, winning that MVP award. He was there in LA, and now he is here with us on this show. Keelon Russell joining the college football recruiting show to take in that breaking news. Keelon, did you know that you're being named a 5-star today? Did we just surprise you?
Oh, yeah, I'm very surprised. I'm just like, whoa, even just top 10, just, blowing my mind for real.
Yes, that's why we wanted to have you on. We kind of, I don't know if we told you under false pretenses you were going to be on the show today. Obviously, we want to talk to you a lot about your success, but we knew that that would be a huge surprise to you to be named a 5-star and a top 10 player in the country. What does that mean when you hear me say it?
Oh, it means a lot to me. It's a true blessing. It means that, it's a million kids out there, and to be named top 10, it means a lot. My work ethic, it's really been showing. The stuff that I do off the field, has really been showing. So just being top 10, it's a lot of work, still to be getting number 1. That's my dream. That's my goal, to be number 1. But being top 10 is a blessing for sure.
Yeah, a lot still to be done for this Alabama recruiting class in 2025. We know you have not been shy about openly recruiting some of these top prospects. So who are you talking to and trying to convince to join you with the Tide?
Man, I'm trying to get everybody I can. I'm going to just say that. But y'all know DeCorian Moore. Man, he's committed to Oregon, I still tell him, signing day in December, so you still got chances to come over. But other receivers like Caleb Cunningham, Khalid Lockett, we trying to get him over there. And then y'all know AK Deer, we trying to get him over there. We trying to build that, that trio right there. And then O-lineman, I'm trying to get Ty Haywood on board. Don't really know why he ain't, pull the trigger, but we trying to get those dudes over there. And I feel like we in the lead for most of those dudes. So, yeah, we're going to, it's going to be a special summer for real.
Yeah, I mean, you just go through the list. It should already be a pretty easy sell. Come play for a team that's won multiple national championships. Come play for me, Elite 11 Finals MVP and top 10 player in the country. Before we let you go, we want to give you the chance to talk to some Alabama fans out there because I see them in the chat right now. They're super excited to see you on our show. So what would you like to say to them?
I'm just very thankful for y'all. Like, y'all are my biggest supporters. Y'all keep me, going every day. I just can't wait to, be out there playing, being y'all starting quarterback, being up under the big lights, winning national championships with y'all, representing Alabama for real. So, being the next Heisman up there. And like I said, I'm just truly blessed, for all of y'all, all my supporters for sure.
I love it. Keelon, thank you so much for being on the show, and congratulations.
Thank you.
There you have it. Keelon Russell, top 10 in the nation, earning his 5th star with this latest top 247 rankings update. So let's go ahead and bring back in our analyst because we have to talk about this guy as a prospect. Andrew, what makes him so special?
Well, he's the one that probably helped himself the most at the Elite 11 Finals. And I know he's committed to Alabama now, but if he was committed to SMU, he would still be number 10 in the rankings. And that's because We loved what he put on tape as a junior. Now he was playing for a loaded Duncanville squad, so there were some questions. How would he stack up with these other quote-unquote elite arms at the Elite 11 finals? And I thought right away he established himself as one of the top dudes. I just call him a playmaker. He's so good at doing whatever is asked of him. He can alter the release, change the arm angles, and he's extremely efficient. His 72% completion percentage, that ranks the best in the top 247. The same goes for his 13 yards per attempt. And the scary thing about him, he's also a dynamic runner. If he takes off, he's going to produce some long gains. Kind of reminds me of like Lamar Jackson during his Heisman season at Louisville. Jaden Daniels, what he did last season at LSU. He's a guy where the arrow continues to point up, and we were validated seeing him at the Elite 11 finals.
As much as we wish that we could go through this entire top 10 and surprise everybody with their rankings, we're going to go ahead and move on to the number 9 player in the country, currently uncommitted. It's cornerback DJ Pickett.
This kid is super unique. You think about him, 6'4" plus. Now the second corner in the top 32 with a 5-star next to his name. That's over 6'4". That's extremely rare. The other thing that's rare about him, he's got 33 3/4 inch arms. That is NFL tackle length for a cornerback. Can do a lot of different things. Can play him on offense. Can play corner. Can play safety. Super versatile. Ran 10.62. We finally got some verifieds on him. This guy is going to have to put on some weight at the next level. But you think about the position flex. And then think about, he hasn't even really primarily played the corner position for that long. So him at the next level, wherever that's going to be, the idea of DJ Pickett just sitting here at number 9, this is a guy that's got a handful of potential ahead of him. And a guy 3 to 4 years from now, you better look out, because he could be, even with the Devin Sanchez and Naeem Alford, all these corners in the class, he could very well be the best one out of that group.
Coming in at number 8, also currently uncommitted, the number 1 defensive lineman in the class, Elijah Griffin.
Yeah, he's one of these guys where we haven't really seen him, and that's because he's been busy doing the college visits, but obviously we feel very good about what Elijah Griffin could be at the next level, coming off a junior season in which he had 31 tackles for loss, 17.5 sacks, over 6'4", and he carries 285 pounds like it's 255 pounds. You see him here with that get off, his ability to find leverage, bend, and hug the ground. He is a bully in the trenches, and it's easy to see why Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs have zeroed in on him. They already have a strong defensive line class. They're gunning for Elijah Griffin, and I think he would be the icing on the top.
At number 7, currently uncommitted, the top linebacker in the class, Jonah Williams.
This kid is super special. No other way to put it. You think about him, over 6'3", 200 pounds. I think the conversation is he a safety? Is he going to spin down? Is he going to be a linebacker? I mean, rewatching him again today at over 200 pounds, he runs in the low 4.5s. He can be anything you want. He plays a little bit of corner as well. I think his ability in man-to-man, he can play down field. He's a run and chase guy. He's physical at the point of attack. He plays like a defensive back, but he's got the aggression of a linebacker. He is everything that you want. I would say you want to compare him to somebody, maybe Sonny Styles from a couple years ago that reclassed, now at Ohio State, now playing that linebacker position. But this kid is extremely gifted. Another guy considered as a top MLB prospect as well. So he can do anything he wants, whether it's playing professional baseball, professional football one day. He can play anywhere on the field as far as I'm concerned. Jonah Williams is a really, really special and unique talent.
The number 6 player in the nation, Ohio State commit, corner, Naeem Alford.
Yeah, and going back through his profile this morning, I kind of totally forgot. He's got a 133-inch broad jump on the ledger. That would have ranked 3rd amongst the DBs at this past year's NFL scouting combine. And then you talk about the frame, right? Over 6 foot, close to 185 pounds. He's someone that I think you can play in the boundary. He's done it on both sides of the ball there in the Yellowhammer State. He just makes plays, and I think his size, how he runs, it's what you want in a corner. Cooper mentioned those 2 guys that are over 6'4". This is a strong corner class, and last year we were kind of lacking some. You peek ahead to the 2026 cycle, we're wondering where these guys out on the perimeter are going to emerge from, but Naeem Alford and these other dudes, they are ready to go, and I think they all could play relatively early in their college careers.
At number 5, recent Oregon commit and the top wide receiver in 2025, DeCorian Moore.
I'm going to say some prayers for any secondary that's got to face Keelon Russell and Decorian Moore this year at Duncanville. Those guys 29-1, back-to-back state champions. We know the deal there, but Decorian Moore, I mean, he's serious. I went back, I watched the tape this morning. I'm trying to think. I'm like, who's this guy kind of compared to a little bit? It's got a little bit of Malik Neighbors. He's got a little bit of Jamar Chase. The Jamar Chase is more at the catch point, the balance, body control, what he can do with 50-50 balls at 5'11". The Malik Neighbors is kind of more run after catch ability, so dynamic. Every time he touches the ball, you kind of hold your breath a little bit. He's got that type of playmaking ability. He is a instant spark plug. You can play him inside out. I love this kid. And if you're under 6 foot, especially at the receiver position, you got to be able to check every box. He does that not only from a verified speed standpoint, what we've seen track and field play speed as well. And on top of that, he's a complete dog. I love the way that this guy plays the game.
At number 4, the number 1 cornerback in the class, Ohio State commit Devin Sanchez.
Man, he was kind of the story of those OT7 championships. Made 3 acrobatic interceptions where he baited the quarterbacks into bad decisions, and then he just levitated for takeaways. I know we're going to talk about the battle for QB1 here in a little bit, but there's also kind of a battle behind the scenes for CB1 between Devin Sanchez and Naeem Alford, the 2 future Ohio State Buckeyes. I'm going to give Sanchez the nod, just having gotten that live exposure down there in Tampa. He's long. I think he can play off man, press man, whatever you need of him. Very reactionary athlete. He's got the track times to back it up. Someone that could play probably right now on Saturdays. And I think, there's a chance that maybe he could even play on Sundays. He's that good.
At number 3, the number 1 offensive tackle in the class, currently uncommitted, David Sanders.
Your prototypical left tackle, and this was a guy that used to be the number 1 player in the country. He hadn't really slipped very far, and for good reason. 6'6", 280 pounds, multi-sport guy. He's got the background and the shot, the disc. We love that. But he's also got two-way snaps, and when you're evaluating these guys and you're trying to figure them out, you can learn a lot by the way they played the opposite side of the football. This guy's aggression that you see in the defensive side of the football, quick twitch, explosive, can work up to the second level. I think can play in a power scheme, but I love him in his own scheme, just his ability to play in space. I love the feet, love the body quickness. You cannot teach some of he has. Now, he's going to take a little bit of time. He's going to need a weight room. He's going to need a nutritional plan. But once that really comes to fruition, this guy's going to be one of the more premier tackle prospects in all of the country.
The number 2 player in the nation, Ohio State commit, quarterback Tavian St. Clair.
Yeah, Emily, he was the alpha dog for us at the Elite 11 finals. Just a really promising 3-day showing for him out there in LA. I'm the one that's kind of been championing him behind the scenes when it comes to our rankings perspective. So it was fun to, see Cooper Petagna, to see Greg Biggins, and then hear the Elite 11 staff just raise about this kid. I mean, he looks like a defensive end, 6'4", 225 pounds, smooth stroke, coordinated mover in the pocket. He's number 2 right now, but I think he made it very clear over the past few months that he too is a can't-miss quarterback prospect this cycle.
All right, we have no change at the top. The number 1 player in the nation remains LSU commit, quarterback Bryce Underwood.
Yeah, he keeps the pole position. We went back and forth about Tavian and Bryce, who wasn't at the Elite 11 finals, but ultimately we decided that it would be best to figure it out during the spring months when the fall months when the actual football is played. The thing I keep coming back to with Bryce is he could technically be a member of the class of 2026. I mean, he won't turn 20 years old until his 3rd year of college. He could get drafted before his 21st birthday if everything kind of comes together. And that's a big deal as we are trying to project towards the game's highest level, right? That's what our rankings reflect. We're projecting towards that NFL draft. And we didn't see him in LA, but he aced his 2 in-person evaluations at Overtime's OT7 Orlando event, the Under Armour camp there in New Jersey. Baked that into the fact that he's got a 40-2 record on Friday nights. He's accounted for 141 total touchdowns. We just didn't feel like it was the right time to move him off number 1 right now. But again, I think the battle between Tavian St. Clair and Bryce Underwood, that gap has closed. But the big thing here is these 2 guys are the real deal, potential franchise signal callers at some point down the line.
So once again, we are here in July. This is all the information you have up until this point. You talked about that battle between number 1 and number 2. I will point out that Tavian St. Clair has bumped up to a 99 grade, which is the same as Bryce Underwood. That is just how close this competition is. So Andrew, how much do you anticipate this race kind of going back and forth as we watch them not battle each other, but in terms of the rankings, battle it out for that top spot this fall?
Well, you mentioned it. Both of them now hold that coveted 99, and I think there's a good chance they could both finish with hundreds next to their name, and that will put them in rare category. Only 3 other times in the 24/7 Sports era have we had multiple quarterbacks with triple-digit grades. That was 2018 with Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, 2020 with Bryce Young and DJU, and 2023 with Arch Manning, Nico Iamaleava, and Dante Moore. I mean, that's a pretty talented group. I think with those two, it kind of comes down to your flavor. Which quarterback are you looking for? Both of them have prototypical frames, but you can make the case that maybe Underwood is more of the escape artist, a little more creative in the open field as a runner. On the flip side, I think I personally would take St. Clair's deep ball over Underwood's. I also think St. Clair might be wired just a little bit the right way, based on all the feedback we've gotten. So both of them have things going on in their favor. And then again, you said it, we want to see what they look like as seniors. That's the luxury that we have, all right? We're not college recruiters. We didn't have to, with how quarterback recruiting is so accelerated these days. I mean, colleges are making decisions after sophomore seasons, and that's kind of their guy. For us, hey, we're just trying to get the rankings right. And the luxury we have is we get those 12, 13, 14, 15 games as a senior. Then we're going to also potentially get them in an all-star game setting. Both these guys, again, they're the real deal. Prototypical builds, high-level arms, don't lack the juice, can get it all around the field, all different corners. And they have done it. On-field production and improved year over year. So we like this too. We'll see how it shakes out, but I can guarantee you, me, Cooper, the rest of the 24/7 Sports Scouting team, when we get to August, when we get to September, we're all going to be watching these games. We're going to try to figure out who is number 1.
As we continue to roll through these quarterback rankings, Keelon Russell, number 3 when it comes to QBs, 10 overall, and then we continue to move down there, and you see the Notre Dame commit, Deuce Knight. Husan Longstreet is next. And then Deuce Knight earning a 5th star, moving up 32 spots. Also, Mizzou commit Matt Zollers is a bit of a slight faller, but both of those guys are in similar ranges there. So, Coop, what contributed to those two guys, their new spots in the rankings?
Yeah, Deuce Knight was a guy that we've been tracking for a long time, and obviously a guy that we've had a ton of exposure to, not only this offseason, but before that as well. And getting to see him in Oxford, what he did there, we named him the Alpha Dog at the Elite 11 Regionals, came built off of that, had some more momentum, and really kind of took off and had a really strong 3 days at the Elite 11 Finals in LA. The biggest thing with Deuce Knight, when you look at the win-loss, when you look at the completion percentage, this is an incomplete evaluation. When you look at the athlete, he's a no-brainer in terms of the type of caliber player that he is. Pound for pound, he might be top 3 athlete in the country this year. And that's, you're talking about guys like Jonah Williams and DJ Pickett and Derek Meadows amongst that. That is a very rare group with a lot of guys that can do a lot of different things. But this is a guy 6'4.5", over 200 pounds, just started working with a private quarterback coach in March, and it's showing up. So we love everything about this kid. We love the fit at Notre Dame under Mike Denbrock. I think can use the legs a little bit more as well. I think continuity for him is going to be a really big thing now back in the state of Mississippi on a chance to build off a really strong offseason. He's just got to put it together on the field. And then on the opposite side of that, with Matt Zollers committed to Missouri, this is a guy that we really liked. We had a lot of high hopes for going into the week in LA. And listen, everybody's in a different place kind of coming into this event. You kind of look at DJ Lagway last year as an example. He didn't really light up the event. He had a strong senior season. He was undeniable at the end of the year where we had to put him as the number 1 quarterback in the country. Matt Zollers has legit talent with a legit high ceiling to grow into. He's kind of on the same timeline as a Luke Kromenhawk last year that didn't end up as a 5-star but was knocking on the door. That's kind of where I see Zollers. But, I mean, you think about the physicality, his ability to escape and continue to extend plays with his feet. He's a creative playmaker. I love everything about this kid. He's going to need a little bit of polish at the next level under Eli Drinkwitz. But if you're Missouri, you got to be thrilled getting this guy in the boat. I think he really kind of separates you from the rest of the pack.
I want to clarify the rankings with those two, both knocking on the door, as you said, of 5-star status. You have Zollers at 38 and Deuce Knight almost there at 34. But again, a massive rise for him. It's not all risers. I said at the beginning of the show, we're not going to shy away from the tough conversations. USC commit Julian Lewis drops to 46, losing that 5th star. Andrew, what's the reasoning behind that change?
Well, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of opinions on Julian Lewis and his new ranking, but here's the reality, right? This group of quarterbacks, we've been studying them for well over 2 years now. And remember, Julian's a guy that moved from the class of 2026 to the class of 2025. I think as a pure pocket passer and a pure distributor of the football, he's really, really good. But when you drop him into the same group as a Tavian St. Clair, as a Keelon Russell, as a Deuce Knight, as a Hassan Longstreet, as a Matt Zollers, his physical limitations only become more and more apparent. Again, I'm sure there's going to be a ton of pushback, but we've been a little bit skeptical, kind of that reclassification from the jump. You know, we kept the 5-star on him after he changed classes, but we started him off at 16. We weren't sure what to expect at the Elite 11 finals. You know, he certainly threw a catchable football, but next to those other guys, we felt like a day 2 grade was more appropriate for us. I'm sure not everyone's going to agree. Look, we're just trying to get it right when the NFL draft comes around. Again, he's behind that group right now. We'll see. We're going to have his senior season, which was supposed to be his junior season. And again, like I said on the front end of the show, there's going to be a ton of movement. Nothing is locked in. 3 more updates to go.
Yes, we are not writing these in Sharpie. This is very fine pencil. We're able to to erase and to change this. Also, Tennessee commit George McIntyre dropping out of that top 32. As a reminder, he did not perform at the Elite 11 finals due to an injury. So, Coop, what have you seen from him lately in this offseason that warranted that drop?
Well, I think Drew brought it up with Julian Lewis. We got to see the best of the best in L.A., and we got to see George McIntyre over the offseason in Oxford, in Nashville as well. And this is a guy, quite honestly, we had in the top 32. And when you stack up the other quarterbacks, he's not even in that conversation. You got the top 6 guys on the board in the top 40. Those are the guys that we really like. Everybody else outside of that, it's a different cut. George McIntyre, I would consider in that range, 6'6" plus, got the basketball background, he's got the pedigree. I like the way this kid moves. I just think that he's further away than what we thought. And the arm talent, the physicality, it's not there like some of the other guys that we mentioned, a Deuce Knight, and Matt Zollers, Hassan Longstreet. You can go down the list. He's not in the category there. So, you know, the other thing, 11 and 13, people would bring up the win-loss with Deuce Knight as well. I understand that. But, you know, he's a different caliber athlete and a guy that's a freak and obviously trending in the right direction. I think George McIntyre over the offseason, to be frank, left a lot to be desired and is trending in a different direction right now. And honestly, he's got a big opportunity during his senior season. But we'd love to see him bounce back. We got him outside the top 64 right now. I think that's appropriate given what we've seen over the offseason and the context that we have on the field.
All right, as you continue to move further down the list of some of the top quarterbacks, you will see a new name in the top 247 by way of UNC commit Bryce Baker. He is a new addition. Also, Georgia commit Ryan Montgomery, a big riser, was a part of the top 247 but continues to move up. Andrew, what have you learned recently about these two?
Well, Bryce Baker, I mean, he was consistent all 3 days at the Elite 11 finals. I go back to, I think it was Thursday night during the pro day. Greg Biggins, he was pulling up Bryce Baker's huddle because he needed to refresh himself, what Bryce Baker had been able to do as a junior. We love just the overall profile for him. He's also a talented basketball player. He's over 6'2", 200 pounds. He's got big 10 and a quarter inch hands. I think I wrote for CBS a few weeks ago, like, Bryce Baker gives Mac Brown hope for one more magical run at North Carolina before he rides off into the sunset. He's a dual threat talent, kind of reminds me a little bit of Jalen Milroe, but as we saw all 20 of those quarterbacks, right, we really were bullish on what Bryce Baker could be. And then again, back to that junior season, you know, he only threw an interception once, one every 100 pass attempts. So we like the total package with him. With Ryan Montgomery, I've always kind of viewed him as the best processor in the class. He's a full field reader. I had a chance to see him at the Elite 11 Regional in Pennsylvania. He was dealing with some turf toe, but he was 100% ready to go out in Los Angeles. I think the thing with him is He's extremely accurate, but there's a little bit more to the athlete. He can work off of play action. He's coordinated on the move outside of the pocket. I think the fit at Georgia there with Mike Bobo in that offense, we know how the Bulldogs are recruiting all these other positions. We know how big that offensive line is going to be in the coming years. Remember the name Ryan Montgomery, because I think he's going to be a pain for a lot of SEC opponents.
It's going to sound a little bit redundant based off of what Andrew just said about Ryan Montgomery, but I didn't have the live exposure until LA a couple of weeks ago. And this was a guy I kind of thought, okay, he's going to be a game manager. You just plug him in that Mike Bobo offense. They're going to lean on the run. He'll distribute it behind that big, massive offensive line. He's got more to him physically than I thought. I thought he showcased that at the Elite 11. I think this is a guy we've moved up 30 spots plus. I think is a guy with a strong senior season that can in the right direction. We continue to talk about that. We want ascending players. This is a guy right now that's starting to play his best football. He's got a grasp on it. He's got a really good command of the position, a high floor player that perfectly complements what Kirby Smart wants to do offensively. Love the fit there in Athens.
All right, we said that this was a big emphasis on the quarterbacks in this latest ranking, but there's been some movement here and there. So I'll start with you, Coop. Who are some non-quarterback names to know in this top 247?
Well, how about Marion Dye, Tennessee? That one's for you, Emily. I mean, this kid's a stud out of the state of Indiana, and we got some new measurements on him, and it was really kind of an eye-opener. You turn on the tape and you measure that up. I mean, 34-plus inch arms. He's got a long wingspan as well, high octane. And if you're a Tennessee fan, you got to be so excited. Not only do you have one of the best players in the country in James Pierce Jr., you got a five-star, one of the best pass rushers last year's cycle in Jordan Ross. Now you bring in this kid in Marion Dye, not to mention another kid that Andrew's going to touch on in Jaden Lofton. So Marion Dye is a kid I love, sticking in the SEC. Michael Carroll out of the state of Pennsylvania, 6'6" plus, kind of reminds me of another guy out of PA last year in Cooper Cousins that's going to end up playing on the interior for Penn State. But this kid, got the genetics. I believe dad played at Penn State. Mom played basketball at Michigan State. 11-inch hands. He's long. He's athletic. He's got two-way snaps. Physical as hell. This dude's just a nasty guy. And you talk about that Alabama identity on the offensive line. They're not going to lose that under Kalen DeBoer. You got to remember Washington had the Joe Moore Award best offensive line group last year under Scott Huff and UW. So these type of guys, they continue to bring in these type of players on the offensive line. They're going to be just fine.
Yeah, Coop, two of those guys, green numbers across the board for us in next gen. You mentioned Marion Dye. How about Jaden Lofton, the other Tennessee pass rusher commit out of New Jersey? This is a kid that Hudson Standish saw at the UA Next camp up there in the Garden State. He just turned 17 years old, 4.23 in the short shuttle at 242 pounds. I love how he builds speed, momentum as a pass rusher. I think for Tennessee, the pairing of those two, and given how they've recruited the defensive side of the ball, plenty of reason to be excited. Another one, Auburn cornerback commit Donovan Starr. The college feedback on him, he's a kid that worked out for a few different schools. I had a bunch of contacts reaching out to me. I think he's someone you could play in the nickel. I think you could play him on the outside. He's got the speed. He's got the ball skills. You see it right there, him picking off a pass. We mentioned it on the front end of the show. Just a few names that entered the top 247. Usually in previous editions, when we kind of get before those senior seasons, you would have seen, 14, 15, 16 new names. But I think this top 247 is pretty buttoned up. When we went through, we tried to pull some guys out, and we really couldn't do it because that's how good we feel about the players. Not only, 1 through 64, but I'm talking 105 to 247. We feel really good about where we are with the rankings right now with this group.
Usually, I'll admit that once I get the copy of it and I print it out and I look at it, I look to see what names have jumped up in the rankings, and there's a guy that moved up over 100 spots. I mean, there is some movement in this top 247, and you say it's just a little tweak, but there are some things happening for sure. So, Andrew, who are some risers that were already in the top 247?
Yeah, a pair of Oregon commits, and it's kind of crazy it just worked out that way. The first one, Brandon Finney, tested off the charts at the Under Armour camp there in Baltimore, 4.59 in the 40-yard dash. He's also gone 6.41 in the 55-meter dash, long reactionary corner. Me and Cooper were talking about it on our podcast yesterday. All right, if Oregon adds Jonah Williams, if they add DJ Pickett, how does that DB class stack up with Ohio State's? Remember, they have the number 1 and number 2 ranked corner. I think I would like the depth potentially for the Ducks, and that's because of Brandon Finney. Another one where the arrow is pointing up. Hudson Standish, when we met as a group, our guy there who handles the Mid-Atlantic, he's like, we got to get him up the board. And just with where we are currently, you look towards the NFL, these corners, more specifically so ones that can cover on the inside in the slot, they are valued so much. So we're trying to push those guys up the board. Brandon Finney is one of them. And then the other Oregon commit, Dallas Wilson, the wide receiver out of Tampa Bay Tech. We only got him for one day at the OT7 championships, but my jaw was kind of on the floor. I mean, this is a kid that's pushing 200 pounds. He's over 6'3". He just went 11 seconds in the 100-meter dash, which is a respectable time, but he is an assertive wide receiver. He makes opponents know that he's on the field, even if he's not getting the football. I mean, he's going to block you even in a two-hand touch setting. So he's someone that climbs just a little bit, and I think he's potentially a dark horse for a fifth star, depending on how everything shakes out here with the senior seasons and the all-star events.
All right, one player we haven't talked a whole lot about, but he is one of the 18 uncommitted 5-stars right now, and that is wide receiver Derek Meadows. We are so excited to bring you his commitment live right here on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. That is Saturday, July the 13th at 3 p.m. Eastern. Let's remind you of his finalists for some of those fans out there that want to know if they have a chance at landing the 5-star receiver. You have Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Michigan, and Notre Dame. And our insider Tom Loy actually spoke to some recruits who are committed to those schools, and they have a little message for Meadows ahead of his big decision.
The boot, brother. We need you. You know me and our bond. Me and you, our bond like that, bro. Just come to the L game. Don't let me down, fool.
With a guy like me too, man, we want to go to the same place. I feel like we can help each other get there. I feel like we could be the best duo in the country.
I know you want to come to win natties. I know you want to come do it all, brother. And it's a squad, you know what I'm saying? It's the Avenger squad. Come be a part of it, brother. You know what I'm saying? We're going to make something happen, boy. I'm telling you.
What's the deal with Michigan? Like, we have so many good things. We have slides. We have cups. Like, who doesn't need a good cup?
Past 3 years, 2 back-to-back natties. It's going to be a third one this year and plenty more in the future, bro. We need you at Georgia. Commit to the G, bro. Go Dogs.
Okay, Michigan can pitch that they are the defending national champions, and yet my man decides to go with the slides and the cups because you can only get those at Michigan. Andrew, what kind of prospect are one of these schools potentially trying to land?
Well, he's a freak, right? We mentioned the freaks list. That's going to come out here in August. He is certainly someone that is, you can Sharpie him, and we don't need to use pencil there. I mean, he's got a 97 speed score, according to our friends at NextGen, which is kind of insane when you consider the fact that he's 6'6". Only caught 15 passes as a junior. So like with Deuce Knight, right? We want to see the on-field production, and really the game that I have circled, second to last weekend of August, Bishop Gorman's going to travel to South Florida to face St. Thomas Aquinas. Derek Meadows could be matched up with Justice Fitzpatrick, our number 1 ranked corner right now in the class of 2026. Well, regardless, he's an elite talent. We've struggled to find a player comp for him. I think the closest thing I can get to is he's kind of like a Mike Evans, what we've seen from the former Texas Tech product in the NFL. He can make those contested catches, and obviously he can race into the deeper third.
One of the best combine workouts I think I've ever seen, and one of those guys that you mentioned when I go through the Rolodex, another guy that played at Bishop Gorman, Roma Dunze, and a guy was a top 10 draft choice this last year out of the University of Washington. And Derek Meadows is unique. Andrew just brought it up. I have yet to see a receiver with his size at 6'6" plus 195 pounds that can run the way that he does, that can jump the way that he does, and as strong as he is at the catch point. The biggest thing with him, similar to how we talked about Deuce Knight, we're waiting for that production to catch up on the field, and all indications are he's going to have a lot more volume, a lot more opportunities his way as a senior. But this kid, I mean, if the light bulb comes on the field, look out. He can make a jump up the board in a hurry.
Once again, you can watch his live commitment right here, July 13th at 3 p.m. Eastern. Thank you both so much. Thank you to our entire scouting team for putting together another, I'll call it perfect, Top 247. Again, we're not writing in Sharpie. It is just pencil. Thank you both, and let's remind you to listen to the 24/7 Sports Football Recruiting Podcast. New episodes drop Tuesday and Wednesdays. You can watch it live right here. You can submit questions or listen wherever you get your podcasts. Also, tune in to Unfiltered tonight at 5 Eastern. Smoke Dixon and Carl Reed give you unfiltered analysis of everything happening in the world of college football. And tonight they have a very special guest, a live commitment from corner Charles Bass. Again, tune in for that tonight at 5 Eastern. And this is really cool, guys. Keep it locked in to 247sports.com. Over the next few days, we will be releasing exclusive news on the new EA Sports College Football 25 video game. This will feature Josh Pate of Late Kick, so keep an eye on 247sports.com for exclusive news ahead of the game's release next week. Looking forward to that. Again, I was bragging about the fact that I have the top 247, but you can have it as well. Go find it on the 247sports.com website and play around with it. Let our guys know what you think. They love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching today. I'm Emily Proud, and this is the College Football Recruiting Show.